RingCentral will completely transform the way you work. It gives you built-in AI across all your business conversations. Your phone system has an AI receptionist that answers calls 24/7. Your video meetings have AI that takes notes instantly. Even your contact center has AI, so you can help customers faster. It all comes together in one reliable platform for effortless AI communications. See for yourself at ringcentral.com. RingCentral, voice of your business.
Welcome to Majority Rules. This is a brand new podcast from your friends at Rock M Radio. This has been in the works for a while now. Podcast producer Levi and I have been discussing the need for this for a little bit, especially since our Olympic sports team, all of our friends here, has been growing. And I know that some of our other writers have also had talks about getting this going. So where does this name come from? It is not, despite what it looks like, a political podcast. I know that makes you guys very upset. But it's actually, if you think about it, Mizzou's student athlete population as a whole, the majority of people who are playing sports at Mizzou do not play the revenue producing sports like football or men's basketball. They play the other sports. And really, that's why we're here. We want to tell the stories of the other sports teams that Mizzou has to offer and share news and reports about all of those other teams so that our fans can get a broader perspective of all of the sports that go on at Mizzou. So I think Matthew and I had talked about this a little bit. We think we might be the first Olympic sports only podcast for Mizzou Athletics. I know that KCOU, which all of you have done or do, does some sports specific podcasts, but we were thinking that we may be the first Olympic sports only podcast out there. So I thought that's also really cool. So this is our first episode and we hope that you enjoy the show. So we'll start off with some introductions. Happy first week of school, you guys. I hope everything's going well so far and you're enjoying all of my J-School colleagues. So I'll introduce myself first. My name is Karen Steger. I'm the lead editor at Rock M Nation. I've been here since October of 2019, I think. I'm the softball and gymnastics beat writer, and I'm the manager of the Olympic sports team, which has grown exponentially in years. I'll go to Dylan next. Dylan, say hi, Dylan.
Hello. My name is Dylan Heinrich. I am a sophomore here at the University of Missouri. This is technically my first year with Rock M. I joined the team back in March, helped cover spring soccer, and then now have transitioned over into fall soccer and then eventually women's basketball later on this year. And boy, am I excited to get this show underway.
And then let's go to Matthew, the longest tenured one of the bunch.
Well, I think I still haven't reached fully year one with Rock M yet, so I guess that's longest tenured, but that's not really saying much, at least yet. But I am the volleyball and wrestling beat writer for Rock M Nation. You'll be seeing a lot of stuff about volleyball from me fairly soon, some of which we'll get into later on in the podcast. And I think I've also done a couple of other random stories. The Larry Beach press conference, who the theories about the mystery mega donor to Mizzou Athletics. That was a fun one. And we'll see what else happens in the future.
And then we'll go to Abigail.
Hi, my name is Abigail Glatowskis, and I'm a senior. I joined Rock M Nation after making a role for myself and asking Karen if I could cover the track and field program, which she very generously said I could. And now I've transitioned to covering Mizzou's distance program with cross country this fall.
And then finally, our newest person, Rory.
Hi, my name is Rory Whetstone. I'm a junior here at the University of Missouri, and as Karen said, just recently joined, but I'll be covering a wide range of things to kind of fill some gaps with Olympic sports.
Awesome. All right, so let's get to it. In season sports updates. I'm going to try this little, oh, there we go. Wow. All right, let's start with Dylan and soccer. What do you want to tell us about what soccer did this past week and any sort of takeaways you have from the 2 games that they played in?
Yeah, so soccer season officially underway, started even before class did, with both games happening before Monday classes even got underway. Split the pair of games. First, it was a 2-0 win at home against Missouri State before losing 2-0 to number 10 Memphis. Couple of games I can say I wasn't at the Missouri State game, but being at the Memphis game, even looking at this team compared to last year, it definitely looks like they have a stronger identity, especially on the defensive end. You can see the way that they kind of pinch in together and the way that they're able to protect one another, fill in the gaps. But there are still those lapses in judgment, as I mentioned in when I was talking to you earlier, Karen, is that when these teams kind of put more pressure on the Mizzou Tigers and they really push in further, they can force them to collapse. And that's what happened against Memphis. They were able to just get one of their players on side, sneak through the hole, and get one shot over Bella Hollenbach, which is all you needed. They scored a second time in the last 13 seconds when what was essentially a garbage time goal, as Mizzou was pretty much wrapped up with the game. But when you go back to that Missouri State game, they scored early. Milena Fisher got on the board in the 9th minute. We've seen that a lot from Mizzou, both last year and now leading into this year. When they get those early goals, they can kind of sit back on defense and reliably be able to, protect their own net without having to go all out on the attack and worry about getting out of sync. So the more often they score early, the more often they win, which I mean makes sense. You get early goals, you win a lot more. So that was a couple of my key takeaways. Another couple of things I wanted to shout out, pair of MVPs for the week. Keegan Good had a total goal of the year candidate. And if you haven't, go check out the Mizzou Soccer Twitter. Just an absolutely phenomenal goal from distance against Missouri State. Just chipped it right over the keeper, right under the bar. It was beautiful. Should be on every highlight show for Mizzou shows from here until next month. And then my other one, a little more nuanced, midfielder Leah Selm. She didn't have any points this past week, but was really effective on the offensive end. A lot of really good shots, a lot of really good passes, was getting shots on net, not just taking them willy-nilly. So I would be more than surprised if she wasn't on the scoreboard sooner rather than later. And speaking of which, she'll get the chance to do so in a pair of games coming up. First is their first road game on Thursday against Illinois, Battle of Bragging Rights. It was one of the best games last year. There's always that rivalry edge to it. You don't usually think of women's soccer when you think of bragging rights, but boy, these teams, whenever they meet up, it's always a barn burner. And then on Sunday, it's definitely what I would consider a rivalry game in St. Louis, or SLU. Now, you usually don't think of SLU as a rival for Mizzou, but in women's soccer, St. Louis has an absolutely phenomenal program. A lot of these players have played against each other. And in fact, one of SLU's star players, Hannah Larson, is actually from Columbia. She went to Hickman High. So there's definitely a little bit of animosity, friendly rivalry there.
She
so
picked
I'm
the wrong
kind of
school, some would say.
Some would say, and some would agree. I'm unofficially dubbing this rivalry week for Mizzou soccer, so I'm very excited about this upcoming week and the tests for Stephanie Golan's squad.
How are those two? How do they kind of match up between those two teams? Like, what's Illinois' record and SLU's record so far?
Yeah, so as of right now, Illinois sits at 2-0. I believe that they have not played any power conference opponents because, by my guess, last time I checked, they were outscoring opponents 8-1, which, if you knew the Illini soccer team, they weren't really blowing out Power 5 opponents like that. I guess Power 4. Sure enough, they beat up Wright State 6-0. Then they beat DePaul in a close one 2-1. So Illinois will be undefeated heading into that matchup against Mizzou. SLU is probably not going to be so lucky. They KC after playing 72 minutes before it got called due to rain. So that was a 0-0 tie. They've only played one game so far. And they match up against number 4 BYU. I believe that game is taking place in St. Louis. So they'll have that home court advantage. But the number 23 ranked Billikens, they're probably going to struggle in that matchup. So that when you look at this team, SLU, they made the third round of the NCAA tournament last year. They were a very good team. I still think they've got a lot of great returning pieces, but might be a little more vulnerable to a team like Mizzou, especially in Columbia, be able to at least take a tie, if not the win, from the in-state rivals.
So one last question for you. So why should people come out and watch this team, Dylan? Aside from the fact that you don't have to pay to get in, which is amazing.
I mean, they've always got some great promotions. I know they were giving out T-shirts last time, but aside from the actual marketing aspect, this team is, I would say this team's big. They're fast. They're physical. Like when you watch, of course, the stars, Kylie Simmons up in the front, the way she moves, the way she manipulates the ball, and just her presence out there is mesmerizing. And then you watch someone like Isabella Hollenbach out in goal, just the way she's able to position herself and take complete control over a game and use her height and her smarts to her advantage. It's just a true masterclass to watch. The rest of the team definitely fills in the gaps. And this year, it feels like they have a much stronger identity around Coach Golan. You can tell this team has a little more experience. They've been around each other in another year, returning a lot of starters from last year, and then a lot of freshmen who are now sophomores ready to step into those bigger roles. I believe they have, I think it's 9 or 10 sophomores on the roster. So it's definitely an area where the team is growing and the team is slowly improving together. And so it's all about climbing that mountaintop. And I think that's what this season is going to be, is just that steady, gradual improvement.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Matthew, let's get it over to you for volleyball. I know we just had that black and gold scrimmage. What kind of are your takeaways from that? Who do you think your MVPs were? What should we be excited about this season?
Well, I know that some people are going to end up asking who won the black and gold scrimmage. The answer for you is nobody really won it. There were 4 sets played. The team black took 2, team gold took 2, but the teams switched names after the first set, and then players switched teams after the second set. So it was headache-inducing, really, trying to keep track of everything. But some big notes from that action. I would expect the starters to remain mostly the same from last season. This is a team that returned 6 of their 7 starters, and then that 7th starter is most likely going to be Michael Vernon, all Pac-12 honorable mention transfer at outside hitter from Oregon State. She's got over 1,000 career kills, so she should slot fairly easily into the role that Delara Gedicola had last year, who was also a transfer on her final season of eligibility. She's now playing professional volleyball in Turkey. But in terms of what impressed me most, I think Jordan Iliff. Now that may seem pretty obvious, Iliff being an all-SEC player, preseason all-SEC as well. But in addition to being maybe the best player for the Tigers last season, she looked even more improved during the scrimmage. And something that you'll always notice about Iliff is just the sheer power that she has when she's going to swing, whether that's going for the kill, whether that's in service. But, she'll get a kill. It lands on the floor inbounds, and then it will go into like the second row in the stands sometimes. And if you've been to a volleyball match at hers, that is a pretty long distance. There was a moment where she was going for the kill, and it was right at Sierra Dudley, the team setter, and looked like it was about to take her head off. I mean, the entire arena basically just gasped. It was shocking, really, the amount of velocity that she put on the ball. But one of the 2 key takeaways, in addition to that, are just the increased depth and the greater height on this team. Now, height was an issue for the team last year against some of the best opponents in the country, teams like Nebraska, Louisville. Those are teams that are going to have middle blockers that are 6'4" taller, outside hitters, right side hitters that are 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and taller. And the Tigers really didn't have that last season, and it made a noticeable difference. They struggled against those elite teams. So you look at some of the additions they made. Regan Haith at middle blocker is 6'2". A lot of the freshmen coming in are at least 6 feet, a lot 6'1". The freshman middle blocker, Tiafanese, that they brought in is 6'2". And then the increased depth. This was a team that relied extremely heavily on its starters last season. You would very rarely see starters leave the floor, especially players like Cedar Sierra Dudley, libero Maya Sands. But this season, I don't think that's going to be the case. Looking briefly position by position, center, you bring in Marina Crownover, who was at Texas, two-time defending national champs. Now, she didn't get a lot of playing time, but you have to imagine she's playing for the two-time defending national champs, and she's from Austin. So she's playing for her hometown team. She looked very good in the scrimmage, and I have to imagine that making that decision to transfer, that is something you do because of playing time. Now, libero defensive specialist, they brought in the WAC libero of the year from UT Rio Grande Valley, Carolias Perez-Catila, and then a former blue chip recruit who spent her freshman season at Texas A&M, Elena Pearson, who is a Kansas City area native. Her father, for Chiefs fans out there, was a defensive back, I believe back in the 80s and 90s with the Chiefs. And then you have freshman Claire Morrissey, adding depth further at outside hitter middle blocker. Regan Haith from Illinois State was on the Missouri Valley Conference All Freshman team a couple of years ago. So this is a team that has the depth that is required to compete at the top of the sport and to make a sustained run in the postseason. I think that you saw some players get a little bit tired. They weren't able to keep up as much late in matches at certain points throughout the year. That's going to solve it. So really, it's impressive returning as many important pieces as the team did. They still got an incredible transfer class, and not to mention they have one of the 10 best recruiting classes freshman-wise in the country as well.
So what is coming up for the team? What's next for them?
Next up is going to be an exhibition against Omaha, University of Nebraska, Omaha, on August 25th on Sunday. That is going to be at the Hearn Center. And then their first regular season matchups are going to be at the Blue Jay Invitational. That is going to start the day after Mizzou football's home opener. That's going to be August 30th. They're going to start with a matchup against Drake. And then what I've pegged as maybe the single most intriguing and important match of their non-conference schedule, August 31st, Saturday, 5 p.m. against Creighton.
That sounds awesome. Last thing I wanted to get from you, I saw that they did receive some votes in the AVCA poll, I think it is.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so they are in the receiving votes portion of the AVCA poll. They had 21 votes, which makes them unofficially the 37th ranked team in the country, right behind Iowa State, which is where Dawn Sullivan actually spent a lot of years in as assistant coach. Their head coach is really Sullivan's mentor. And then they are right in front of Hawaii, but they do have some early chances to move up. Like I mentioned, Creighton is ranked 12th in the country. And then you look at the depth in the SEC, they're going to be playing in the SEC, the number 1, number 9, number 11, 15, 19, and 25 teams in the nation in their conference schedule. They've also got number 6 Louisville on the non-conference schedule as well.
So do they do like a strength of schedule type of thing to figure out postseason play, kind of how some of the other sports do?
I believe so.
Going way too early into it.
I believe so because they do use net rankings as a portion. And if I remember correctly, strength of schedule, strength of record are part of the net rankings, pretty much whatever sport that you look at for the NCAA. So the way that they scheduled the non-conference, I think, is going to be a really big benefit to this team because when you look at it early on in the season last year, this was a team that had some struggles against opponents that they would not have lost to at the end of the year because of the development the team had over the course of the season. They had losses to, I believe, Eastern Illinois and Buffalo. Those are losses that affected their standing in when it came time to seed, which led to them ending up going against Nebraska in the second round, who was the top overall seed in the tournament last year. So they have a good mix of teams who are maybe a lower mid-major, but should be towards the top of their conference. You have some comparable high major teams like Illinois, for example, where the Tigers, or NC State, where the Tigers should likely be favored. And then you have a couple games where it's either a toss-up, or they're looking to punch above their weight. 12 Creighton, I think, is going to be really hotly contested. That match is, like I said, the one I have circled on my calendar. And then number 6, Louisville. Now, the most interesting thing about that is going to be, I mentioned they really struggled against some of the elite teams, right? The teams that are going to be challenging for Sweet 16 bids, for Elite 8 bids, even to go into the Final Four and beyond. They did not really have what it took to compete with those teams for more than 3 or 4 sets. Last season, 6th ranked Louisville, that's going to be the first match where we find out if they have that this season and have the possibility of knocking off some of those top 10, top 15 ranked teams.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew. I'm really looking forward, as a first-time season ticket holder to volleyball, to watching them this year, and hopefully everyone will pack Hearns for that. Let's move on to Abigail with cross country.
Yes, I absolutely love cross country, and I'm excited because this is the season to tune into Missouri cross country. I know that has been said about many sports recently. I think it's the theme of the Olympic sports, and I think it's only continuing under Kyle Levermore, coach of the distance program at Mizzou, in his second season. So he's entering his first cross country season that, in his own words, he was the architect of. He configured the schedule. He has followed these athletes through their track season. He has been able to individually develop their training progressions in this off season. And in speaking with him prior to the beginning of the season, you can tell the confidence that has given him over control and of this entire team. He knows what's going on because he was the one that chose all the individual paths for his runners. If I had 2 characteristics for this team that would distinguish this 2024-25 distance program, because what a lot of people forget about distance running, you are a 2-sport athlete. You compete in the fall and you have just as many goals on the line in the spring in track and field. They return more strength. They have a, quote, higher ceiling, according to Kyle Levermore, and they have a new identity under their feet. So strength, they are at full strength. Every single runner returns healthy, and that is not something that can be taken for granted in this sport, especially after an arduous, long summer of off-season training. That's impressive, and honestly, I think that speaks to the precision and level of care that his coaching staff has already implemented. And what was my second? I forgot. I say consistency. I'm going to go with consistency. That was the key that he kept bringing up. He said, this is a team that has bought into all of the little things. And I kept trying to ask, okay, what are our big goals? What does it look like to be this elite distance program, to make waves in the Midwest Regional, which is a region that they have not done very well in at all. They were not very competitive in last season, nor were they in the SEC, finishing basically dead last in both categories. And while I wanted him to dream big, he kept bringing it back to the consistent fundamentals of what it looks like to be a good runner. And he said that both his returning veterans have made strides in all the small details, coming back to diet and exercise and sleep. And he's seen those qualities in one of their highest recruiting ranked classes entering. He said, we do not lack in talent. However, they may be lacking experience. And I think that's visible they are definitely a young program, but they have some veterans that he said have made some strides, taken a lot of strides in the off season. So I think it's going to shape up to be a program that he's excited about and that he feels has a future reflective of them being a program within the SEC conference.
So tell us a little bit about the facility, I guess it's a facility, but really the outdoor area that they practice in that's like world class.
So we're sitting on a little bit of a cross-country paradise here in Columbia, Missouri that I don't think a lot of people realize. The Gans Creek cross-country courses is one of the most beautiful courses in the country. It has these wide, sloping, incredibly wide straightaways, curves. It's a looped course. It's beautiful. Here are a few reasons that I love it. A, it's highly accessible. The parking lot is incredibly close to the start line. So for spectators who may not be willing or able to run around the course, they don't have a very far walk. It's also accessible with nice indoor plumbing bathrooms. We love that. There are some really impressive start lines. And if you're like me and you want to chase the athletes all around embarrassingly slower than they're going, and you want to be back in the weeds and those back 3 and 4K markers, you can still hear what's going on because there's an awesome PA system that the announcer's voice carries throughout the course. So it's incredibly spectator friendly in all aspects. And the country, the USTFCCCA, my favorite acronym in the world, has designated it as a world class because they've actually said that Missouri is going to host the national championship next year. So if you're not yet familiar with this course, now is the time to do so before we have some world-class runners. And I think having that goal in mind is it's dangling the carrot in front of some of these veterans that are on the precipice of maybe qualifying for nationals and saying, hey, next year you can do that at home in front of your own fans. Like, what more incentive is there than that? And I think that's an important note to mention. As excited I am about this team, not being critical, but evaluating where they're at and where they haven't gone. They didn't qualify any individual runners to the national championship last fall, nor obviously then any runners at a team level. However, they have one transfer, Rahel Bromell from Arkansas State, who competed at the national championship last fall. And Levermore said her eyes are already set on November. So she's going to bring the team with her. Like, they're changing the landscape of, we don't really just want to place at some of these other meets. We're looking towards November. And I think that's a goal that hasn't necessarily been unlocked by this team yet.
Awesome. So when's the first time that we can go over to the facility to check them out?
Yeah. So I think the cross country mornings are the best thing in the world. 7:30 a.m. Next, I see Rory laughing. Rory, you have to come with me. It's worth it. Next Friday, August 30th, the Gans Creek cross country course. It's their home opener. He did not throw out the word time trial. I'm going to throw out the word time trial. It's more of an exhibition game, if you will, although the times will count towards their PRs. It's a 5K and 6K race. Gun starts for the men at 7:30 with the women following at 8. It's going to be mostly regional opponents. The start lists aren't usually released until the day of, but last year I know they competed against Most State, Lindenwood, SLU. It's going to be a really fun opportunity to see some of these young racers. We have the girl from 5A Missouri. She holds the Gans Creek High School cross country course record. We've got several young recruits from New Zealand. So I think it'll just be a good opportunity for them to put on some spikes. And then we don't know when necessarily we'll see some of these younger recruits at the starting line again this season because they have some veterans who are willing to pace the team. It's a good opportunity to familiarize yourself with the course and where to stake out all the spots that you can see them the most times.
As much as I'd like to join you, I think I have to work that day.
You know what? I'll be there. I'll be live tweeting so you can follow the updates.
That's a very early morning to watch.
And it's dewy, so wear shoes that you're not, or that you're completely comfortable getting a little bit wet. But let me tell you, it's worth it.
Thank you, Abigail. And then Rory, will go on to you because, surprise, golf is starting. We weren't really sure about that until I happened to get a notification about it. So tell us about golf.
So men's golf this season will kick off on September 16th in Ontario at the Canadian Collegiate. Looking at this roster, it will take a bit of a hit with the loss of Jacqueline Dean. However, we should shine a little bit of a spotlight on him with just the start of a fabulous pro career. He's currently on the Dakotas Tour. He won his first 2 events, shooting under 18 and under 23 in a total of over 54 holes, and then in the third event finished 5th, and then in the 4th he took 2nd. So just starting off so strong led him to qualify for the Corn Ferry Tour, where he unfortunately did not make the cut, but just a super impressive showing right off the bat. So it'll be exciting to watch him from here on out. But if you're looking at the current roster, you've got Brock Snyder, who will highlight this team. He just had a showing in the U.S. Amateur. He's got big shoes to fill, but as a sophomore, I think he'll do just fine. But On the women's side of things, they'll open their season on September 8th in Lexington before they head back to Columbia for their invitational on September 23rd. But looking at the team, they're down a couple players from last season, but Addie Dobson looks to lead the Tigers here, and she just participated in the Hoosier Women's Amateur where she finished in a tie for 5th. So they've got both teams have got some well-rounded players, and it'll be exciting to watch them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So I guess now we will switch over to out of season sports. Ooh, that ticker down there at the bottom looks so nice. Okay, so I will get us started on this since neither of my sports are currently in season. So we'll start with softball. Not really any team-wise news, except for I do highly recommend, and Dylan will say this too, that you should follow some of the team on social media because they are insane and do like crazy stuff. And it's pretty fun to watch. So they, we may not be watching them do softball related activities right now, but they are amusing themselves in other ways. That's for sure. Staff wise, there are a couple of changes. It was announced today that the assistant pitching coach Molly Jacobson is leaving for a different position, I think at Iowa. She's from Iowa, I know. She only just arrived at Mizzou last summer, so she hasn't been with us for very long, but we're wishing her the best. And then the Tigers also added a new graduate assistant. I hope I'm saying her last name right. Her name is Kiki Thall, maybe Tholl. If I'm saying it wrong, I apologize. Who just wrapped up a 4-year playing career at Michigan as a catcher and first baseman. So they'll have her on board now. So that's awesome. And then we also have some gymnastics updates. I had planned to show this on the screen, some of the statistics that I found, except for that I haven't figured out how to do that correctly yet. So we'll work on that for future episodes. So they did announce the WCGA Academic All-American recipients, and basically it was the whole team, which is really awesome. It was 13 women were recognized as academic All-Americans. So there's a lot of smarties on the gymnastics team. Also, while they haven't really released the dates or anything like that, the SEC opponents have been released. So the Tigers will participate in 8 Southeastern Conference meets, including home meets against Kentucky, Alabama, Georgia, and Auburn. And then away meets, they go to many-time national champion Oklahoma, reigning national champion. I should say about Oklahoma, that is one of our transfer, Amy Weirs. That was her prior school. So it'll be kind of a homecoming for her. They also are visiting reigning national champion LSU. And then they go to Florida and Arkansas. And then the last thing I'll mention, so Shannon Welker has kind of alluded to me that there's some sort of big gymnastics news coming, but he won't give me any hints. And I reached out to choreographer Jackie Turpak about it. She also won't give me any nuggets, which I find extremely hurtful. So although we don't know exactly what it is yet, we know it's not schedule related. We don't think it's facility related, though that would be really cool. So we've decided, me and my gymnastics colleagues, that it's got to be something recruiting related. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what that is. And when I find out, you guys will be the first to know, because I'll probably just be screaming with joy.
Good question about the volleyball schedule. You mentioned Auburn is going to be a home meet. Auburn returns multiple-time Olympian medalist Suni Lee, right?
No.
No?
She is
Oh,
not
wow.
going back to Auburn. While Jordan Childs is going back to UCLA, Sumi is not going back to Auburn. So yay. Good for us. Okay, let's go to Dylan. I know that you went to women's basketball practice a couple weeks ago. What'd you notice?
It's I don't quite have as many updates from the women's basketball. The summer's been pretty light. I guess we could start off with some schedule news. The Columbia Tribune got their hands on most of the non-conference schedule, every matchup, but for the most part, it's all basically mid-major opponents at Mizzou Arena. I don't want to call them schedule fillers, but these are teams that didn't have the best of years last year that Mizzou is going to pay these guys to come to Columbia and say, hey, you guys can test yourselves against an SEC roster, and we get a chance to see what our girls can do and maybe try and build up some of those win resumes, which when you play in the SEC women's basketball schedule is always a good idea. But during anything actually related to the team, I went out and to a practice earlier, I believe it was in July, got the first look at the team, all the new transfers. I think people are going to be very excited. There's a lot of transfers. I think people are going to be very excited with the transfers. In addition, Delilah Brown, who didn't get to play last year, is going to have a big role in this upcoming fall. I think she's going to do great things. Staying with the point guard theme, Avery Kroenke, well, she's been a part of the team. She was hurt last year, couldn't play. Now she looks back better than ever. She looks big. She looks strong. Going back to the transfers, Tiana Heron, also known as Tree, she was an immediate standout.
Nickname.
Physically, she's very big. She's physical. She's got all the right post moves down there. And I think this year might be still a little bit of development. She's still getting used to playing consistent college basketball, but give her the end of this year heading into next year, and she will absolutely be a major force down in the paint for Mizzou. I think some other players who really looked good. I mean, Grace Slaughter, she somehow looked even taller than last year and even better, just smooth on her shot fakes, smooth on her shots. And Coach P repeatedly called her one of the best shooters in the SEC. And I mean, after watching her last year and watching her light it up all practice, it's hard for me to disagree. You could see the team put a large emphasis on defense. It was all about communication, being able to work with one another, collapsing into the paint, and then being able to scramble out. They just looked better and better. But of course, it is the summer. Take it with a grain of salt. There's still a lot of work to be put in behind closed doors that now that everyone's back to campus, they can continue working on. But I will say I'm feeling pretty good about where this women's basketball team is so early on with so many new faces.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dylan. Let's go to Matthew with a quick update about the wrestling roster.
Yeah. So wrestling is going to be losing several key pieces, not only from last season, but from the last several seasons. All-American Zach Elam at heavyweight, gone. All-American Peyton Mako at 174 pounds, gone. All-American Brock Muller at 157 pounds, gone. So they're going to be losing 3 All-Americans. Now, looking at how they're going to fill those positions, the biggest news in the offseason in Mizzou Wrestling, multiple-time national champion, 4-time All-American Keegan O'Toole is changing weight classes. He's going to be bumping up to 174 pounds. He was been talking for a little while about wanting to get bigger. Obviously, as he's going through college, he had been at 165 from when he was a freshman to now he's entering, I believe, his fourth or fifth season with the Tigers. So that's the time when obviously you're going to be getting bigger, both in terms of height and then weight. So this is just a move that makes a lot of sense for him. I had an interview with head coach Brian Smith earlier in the season, and he said that O'Toole is already over 174 pounds. I believe he was in the 180s. Now, for wrestlers, that's not much of a concern because they go over their weight in the offseason, and then they shed some of that weight as they get closer to the year. And O'Toole is a native of Wisconsin. He was back there for parts of the summer. And I believe Smith did mention that Culver's cheese curds did help play a part in O'Toole getting up to that next weight class. Now, some of the other the weight class battles are going to be really interesting. I think 165 pound is a place where you have a fairly clear-cut starter, Cam Steed, who's shown a lot of moments of potential, but he's had several injuries and hasn't really had the opportunity to showcase that fully as a Tiger yet. I think 157 pounds is the weight class, which is the most open at the moment. James Conway had a couple of starts during that stretch where a lot of the wrestlers were either injured or sick towards the end of the year. He filled in sometimes during dual meets during that time. And then Jordan Fisher, who is, I believe, going into his redshirt freshman or sophomore year, has not really appeared for the Tigers at all, missed all of last season, I believe, with an injury. So he is going to be the wild card. And I think that Fisher is somebody who likely has more upside, especially for the long-term future. But we just don't know that much about him at the moment because, like I said, we haven't really seen him on the team. And then 285 pounds heavyweight is going to be another one to watch. Seth Nitzel is going to be the favorite there. He's had some impressive showings the last couple of seasons at the tournaments that they send wrestlers to who aren't in the starting lineup. He's won a lot of matches there. He's finished first at a lot of those tournaments, and he actually entered the transfer portal for a part of the offseason because the coaching staff was looking at some different options at heavyweight, such as multiple-time All-American Wyatt Hendrickson, who's now at Oklahoma State. They actually sat down, had a conversation with him, told him, just in case, in the best interest of Nitzel, it might be good to put his name in the portal. He went into the portal as a no contact. He wasn't going to be looking unless they added a really, really big name like Wyatt Hendrickson. That didn't pan out, and they're happy to have Nitzel back. And then Jarrett Stoner is a little bit of a younger option. He's going to have to push Nitzel for that starting job, but he's another name to watch there as well. So those are the 4 position battles. And, well, 3, Keegan O'Toole basically has it locked up at 174 pounds. So Keegan O'Toole looking to get his 3rd national title, this time at a new weight class.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew. Abigail, do you have anything to report for track and field?
Yes, and speaking about the loss of some of these stars for the teams, I'd be remiss not to mention Kelsey Schweizer graduated this spring, and she broke a 20-year-plus record in the 800 meters and also qualified for the NCAA Outdoor Championships for the Tigers this spring. She was one of only 3 women to do so, also joined alongside Jenna Schwartz in the 8 and Michaela Reed. Both of them competed in the 1500. But the Tigers graduated Michaela Reed and Jenna Schwartz. That's 2 of your 3 women who competed at NCAA Outdoors. They need to bring some of these younger women up and out with them and qualify consistently. Actually, Coach Livermore said he'd like to have a distance runner qualify in every single distance event. So that's going to be a bit of a leap, and they will definitely miss Schweizer in helping them do so. However, there is a little more hope on the men's side. Blake Morris set an incredible 4-second PR in competing last spring in the men's 10,000 meter. Him and Davis Helmerich both finished in the top 7. Helmerich in the 1500 and Blake Morris in the 10K. So they've got a little bit of experience, but not a lot of depth at performing at a high level on that national stage. For distance, for the field, as announced today, we kind of knew this was coming, but super excited to see the announcement. Sterling Scott, men's triple jumper, is going to represent Mizzou at the national stage next Tuesday. He will be competing in the under 20 triple jump competition. So it's all international athletes under the age of 20. And right now he's currently ranked number 8th in the world with his 16.14 meter personal best, which he set at SEC Indoors as the youngest freshman in the field. And also he already has international experience. He already competed at the under 20 Pan Ams and was the champion. So he's been there, done that, and hopefully will do so again. And in speaking about how Kyle Livermore has this goal of competing and qualifying more individual athletes in the distance program in track, it really would help to be able to host some indoor track meets. And as was teased out today, it seems as though the Hearn Center is getting a much needed and far long overdue resurfacing of their indoor track, at least by their little hype video. And as according to Kiefer USA, it's going to be a new 200-meter 6-lane oval banked track. The keyword in that statement is a banked track. All indoor tracks must be banked in order to be able to host professional meets. That essentially means, if you're familiar with indoor track at the Mizzou Rec, the curves are at a little bit of a bank. The centrifugal force is then lessened, and you're actually able to run a little bit faster compared to a flat track, and it's just a lot kinder on your knees when running. And it allows the Mizzou to compete, not that they're going to necessarily top Oklahoma's indoor track, or Arkansas, excuse me, I highly doubt that. It doesn't look as though the new renderings have a lot of space for spectators, but it will at least be a much safer and more competitive facility for the athletes themselves. So that is super exciting.
It just looks so pretty.
I know, it's super awesome. For the Missouri in 2022, they haven't hosted an indoor-outdoor meet since April of 2021, and the outdoor track was last researched in 2013. So this is still part of DRF's reign in her goal to help spread some of the wealth and the funding to revitalize all Olympic sports facilities. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they're going to talk it up. It is very exciting, but I would like to underscore that it was overdue and really just kind of an expectation for our track athletes. Many of whom I've talked to said that it was getting to the point where it's unsafe. So while it's exciting, it was also just incredibly necessary. So, yeah.
Well, and I remember having a conversation with Mason Arneson last year at the SID for gymnastics, who also did track. And he was telling me about the plans to get this new removable track. So then if another facility is ever built, then they can just pick it up and place it in this new building. So let's go, new building.
I love that, Karen. I will believe it when I see it, and I don't think I'm going to see it before I graduate.
I know.
And I say that as someone who will never have to run on the track. So I'm very excited for our athletes, but as an advocate for Olympic sports and particularly the safety of the track, this is overdue.
Yeah, for sure. And then Rory, we'll go to you. Do you have any other sport updates?
I don't have a ton of updates. I touched a little bit on baseball with a piece earlier in the week just about some recruits that Mizzou actually lost out on to the draft, and just kind of an update on former Mizzou players in Major League Baseball if you want to take a look at that. But as you know, fall ball kicks up, I should have some more updates there for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And so the last thing we'll do real quick, because I've kept you guys long enough for our introductory episode. Let's just close and say real quick what we're working on. So I'll start with myself. I'm finishing up my way too early gymnastics preview pieces this week. Floor will go out on Sunday. I've already recapped vault, bars, and beam. They're probably totally wrong. Mizzou has a very good recruiting class coming in. They also have an elite transfer class coming in. I think they were the number 1 transfer class in the country. So trying to form lineups without having seen much and just like basically relying on the knowledge of some of my very smart colleagues and just watching random videos that I can find of performances online. I did try to come up with what I think it's going to look like. So that's going to be ending this coming week. And then after that, I don't know. Maybe there'll be some more gymnastics news. If Shannon and Jackie would like to share that with me, it would be great. Let's go to Dylan. What you got in the works?
Yeah, so my next article is coming out Thursday morning. It's my new preview series that I'm going to do each week leading into the Mizzou soccer games. I'm dubbing it Tiger Targets, and these have been just so much fun to watch. just putting these together. It's going to be a mix of takeaways from the past week of action, what to look forward to, especially this week. And again, what we're calling rivalry week between Illinois and SLU. Players to watch out for, players who have been doing really good. It's a nice little mix of everything. And I'm just excited to talk more Mizzou soccer as the season just continues to ramp up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Matthew, are you there? There you are. Okay.
What am I working on? All right. So starting with volleyball, I'm going to have position previews for setter, libero/DS, middle blocker, and then outside hitter and right side hitter. Those will be coming up shortly. They are currently in progress, probably around 40% done. So look for the start of those in the next week to week and a half. And then something I've been working on for a while, I'm slowly chiseling away at it, is a kind of bigger wrestling preview project. We're going to have a preview for all 10 weight classes, and that's going to be coming out closer to the start of wrestling season, but it is in progress. Pardon our dust while we continue construction, and just keep an eye out for that in the future.
Awesome. Thank you. Abigail, what you have going on?
I am going to take you through the Missouri cross-country schedule, explaining who to look out for at every single meet. I think with that, I'm going to explain the Midwest regional setup because it looks a little bit different for cross-country than any other sport. Whereas other sports, it's all about the SEC. We've got some other competitors to watch out for in cross-country world. And also, they added an extra meet this year in between their opener and the Gans Creek Classic. I asked Coach Livermore why. And he said because they don't want to get their asses kicked in October. They would rather have that happen in September. So we're going to be looking at who they might be competing against at the Blue Spike Invitational at Penn State.
I love it. And then Rory, who will close out with you.
Yeah, as I was talking about earlier, golf is just right around the corner. So I'm hoping to have just a couple pieces out for you guys about that, or baseball soon.
Awesome. So that about wraps it up for us. We want to thank you all for tuning in for our first episode. And I think we will plan on trying to do this every week. You can subscribe to Rock M Radio on YouTube. You can also find the audio version in your preferred podcast feed, whatever that is. I think besides doing this, we may try to work in some fun stuff. So if any of us go to a press conference and video it, or do some one-on-one interviews with players or coaches or something like that, we'll kind of throw that up on our feed now too, that we have our own home for all of those sports. Abigail did this really awesome little snippets last year, split seconds, and I was like, oh, that'd be perfect just to throw those out there as those get done. So we have some cool stuff in the works. Maybe we'll do some games or something. I don't know, we can do whatever we want. It's kind of our little Olympic sports home. So we want to thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.
RingCentral will completely transform the way you work. It gives you built-in AI across all your business conversations. Your phone system has an AI receptionist that answers calls 24/7. Your video meetings have AI that takes notes instantly. Even your contact center has AI, so you can help customers faster. It all comes together in one reliable platform for effortless AI communications. See for yourself at ringcentral.com. RingCentral, voice of your business.